Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Hot Combs and Popcorn Podcast. For those who don't know, my name is Danielle.
My name is Bree.
And I'm Bobby.
And one of the things that we love to do here on this podcast is review movies and television shows from Black culture that we should have seen by now, but we have not. So we are catching up. At the end, after we discuss our thoughts and our feelings about the movies as millennials, we're going to be rating the movies on a scale from 1 to 5 hot combs. So today, we are reviewing Cooley High, which was written by Eric Monte and directed by Michael Schultz. It's starring Glenn Turman, Lauren Tilton Jacobs, Cynthia Davis, Garrett Morris, and many, many more. It was released on June 25th, 1975, with a rating of PG, and it had a runtime of 1 hour and 47 minutes. So for a quick little synopsis, Cooley High was a coming-of-age film.
PG? Hold on, I just gotta say.
Look, when I looked it up, I had a question mark. So did Google.
PG? And we're talking parental guidance only. That's it.
I have thoughts.
Okay, anyway, continue.
Look down and I see y'all cracking up. You know what? We leaving it in. We're not editing this out. Okay.
I just was not expecting it.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
What? Okay. So the quick synopsis is Cooley High is a coming-of-age film that follows Preach, his best friend Cochise.
Oops. Not the Gucci.
Cochise.
Cochise.
It's Cochise.
Cochise.
See?
Oh my God.
Cochise.
You'll never hear that name again.
No. Okay. Following that man.
Yes.
And their friend group living as teenagers in Chicago in the 1960s as they encounter opportunities and obstacles while attending Cooley Vocational High School. So, ladies, let's get into it. What are our initial thoughts about Cooley High? How do we feel about it?
Well, initially, I said this earlier, and I'm going to say it again. I thought this was a fun, family-friendly comedy. And you know what it was until it wasn't. And I feel robbed. I feel betrayed. Because I was on board with it. I was like, okay, this is cute, whatever, teenage shit. They're drinking, they're kissing, they're smoking, they're partying. And then bam, death. Like every time.
It wasn't the two naked people on the bed that made you question the PG. It wasn't that first before the death?
Oh, the sex scene?
It wasn't that?
No, because like to me, that's like teenage shit. Whatever. Like they're having sex. Fine.
PG, not PG-13.
Oh yeah, PG. No, I was not expecting that. I was gonna, if anything, I'd probably give it like a rated R. Well, okay, maybe like a PG-13.
Yeah. Because honestly, the sex scene wasn't really even anything. All I focused on during the sex scene was Preach had dirty fingernails.
Ew. No, not the BV. Not the yeast infection. Brenda, girl, I'm sorry. Because you deserved better.
Sorry, Brenda. But that was
my God.
I was like, I know I had to go back. I was like, oh my God.
I didn't even.
I wasn't looking that hard. I'm gonna be completely
I was not looking that hard. And that's the real tragedy here. Before we even get into it, what? Dirty fingernails?
Clean fingernails even a thing back then?
So you telling me out of everybody that worked in this production, not one person could clean his fingernails? Even him.
The need to clean his fingernails.
Men today don't even think they should clean their fingernails. I really highly doubt in the 60s, the 70s. This is made in the 70s. I really highly doubt that in the 70s and living in the 60s, they had, look what they were doing. You think they were worried about their fingernails? You think the women were worried about men's fingernails?
These women were out here struggling.
I want them to want better for themselves. That's all I'm saying.
So you want me to stay at home, cook, clean, and put up with your dirty fingernails? It's a no for me.
It's a no.
I would be in these streets.
Brenda, I'm so sorry.
She deserves so much better.
As the resident Chicago.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I did not live on the North Side, but I know Cooley High, I believe, is on the North Side. And I didn't even know it was a real place. It was like a real place. And yeah, I think it got shut down maybe like a couple of years after the movie came out.
Oh.
Had no idea, but we do have a couple of vocational high schools in Chicago, so it doesn't surprise me. I was watching this thinking it was rated R this whole time, just because things be rated R all the time. Every movie we watched this far has been rated R, so I thought nothing of it. And then when I saw two naked bodies, I was like, oh, this is clearly rated R. It's not. Interesting. That was news to me. Other than that, I mean, I liked it. I thought it was very interesting, like being able to see like how my like parents and family members were living in Chicago back then. Especially because like Chicago was segregated. It's not as like intentionally like out there segregated, but it was segregated to the point where you couldn't even like cross lines or cross certain streets and stuff. So it was interesting watching them make a whole movie about Black kids and Black people, and then be in these certain areas like the North Side and by downtown Lakefront and stuff. It was just like, oh, it felt like a piece of history to be able to make a movie about a coming of age film of Black kids in a city that's still segregated and very much racist. So I was like, oh, it seemed like the 60s was just vibes. It was just vibes and hijinks. They were just living their best life, you know, joyriding, doing that one dance they all did at the party. It was just a little shindig.
Yeah.
It was a little shindig. I could only imagine how seen the Black teenagers back then felt when that movie came out.
Mm.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. Like the beginning, you know, the little bloody nose thing, whatever. And then like they're jumping on the back of the bus. I was like, this is it. We're living now. This is going to be amazing. It's going to be so fun. I also think just in general, like at the beginning of this year, before we even like started talking about this podcast, I had told myself this is going to be 1, the year of the Black movie. And also 2, the year that I watch all the movies that I've deprived myself of, because I vividly remember being like 10 and saying, I will never watch a movie in black and white. I'll never watch a movie that was made before 1990 for some reason. I know, like, I don't know why I was so against it, but I was. And so I was like, no, Bobby, you're going to expand your horizons this year. And so what I've noticed, because I have watched a few movies that were like in black and white, or they were made like before even like 1965 this year. And the one thing I've noticed is that it's like a time capsule, and it is just something about it is very refreshing, because like even like watching like a period piece today that's supposed to be set in like the 20s or whatever, it's not actually made in the 20s. So like it's they can do all the recreations that they want, but it's not like authentic as it could be. And so that's something that I really appreciated about this movie. And like what you were saying, Brie, like how these are how people used to live. My dad grew up in Chicago in the 70s. So this is his era. And so I was like, dang, I wonder if they was actually cutting class, like jumping on this bus and like faking out the lady at the zoo and all that. I thought that it was so cute and very refreshing. Until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't.
Well, until it was a Black movie.
Well,
until it was that.
Yeah.
That would be controversial.
Oh no.
But I thought this was a very boring movie. So this was a very boring movie.
Oh my God. No.
Like, what is the plot? Like, are we just going off of vibes here? Like, what is happening? And literally nothing happened until like 30 minutes before the movie was supposed to end. I was like, I was sitting there for that hour or whatever, for the first hour, just like,
oh no.
I was like, the only reason I'm gonna finish this is because we need to do this podcast. I did not.
Oh no. That's all I can say.
I will say, like, because I was like, I know these people, like, I preach is Sarge from a different world, And y'all know I love Different Worlds. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is young him. Because like in A Different World, he's in his like 40s or something like that. 40s or maybe early 50s.
He looked a smooth 25 in this. So
Yeah.
I don't
get me started because I got a whole other point on that.
I was like, oh, this is my first time seeing young him. And then the other dude, whose name I clearly don't know how to say, and I'm not going to try and say it again.
Cochise.
Yeah, that one. He was Joe Jackson in The Jacksons of an American Dream or something like that. So I was like, okay, I know them. And then the movie just...
Yes, it did what it did. The first... Okay, nothing happened but the vibes. Yes. This is actually the second time I've seen this movie. The first time was like 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. I too was also bored up until they stole the car. And I was like, okay, fucking finally.
Right.
It definitely went up and down. Like the car was when I was most entertained. And then at the end, there was that little chase scene or whatever. I was also entertained. But everything else, I was in and out. The parties were fun because I was like, oh, wow. I always said that if I was a teenager in 1975, I would be a Funkadelic groupie. And I would also be a Queen stan. However, I know this movie says like in like 1968, but a girl can dream. Okay. So I was kind of living. that really took me out, Danielle. But the first note that I had written down in all caps, these do not look like teenagers. And preach, I'm talking to you.
Okay. This is the same conversation I feel like Twitter was having 2 months ago about basketball players from the 1990s. Yeah. I don't know why everyone looked like they were 35. I don't get it. I will say Cochise and I think his name was Pooter, the tinier one that could never get into anything.
Oh, Pooter.
I know, very weird name, but besides the point, I thought those two looked the most their age. Mm-hmm. Everybody else looked like they shouldn't be in high school, but I don't know why. It just seems like before 1995, even in the 2000s, people was looking 45 and they was 20. I don't get it. I don't know what the transition was. What happened?
I don't know. Also, I just Googled the cast. Robert Townsend was in this movie.
He was the basketball player.
Yes, I didn't even.
Which is crazy. Because I was just talking to my mom about that. And like the fact that this movie was made in 1975, right? Dropped 1975. Mm-hmm. And The Five Heartbeats came out in the 90s. The fact that Robert Townsend looked the exact same with a 25-year age difference is ridiculous.
Wait.
Or 15
what
years.
year was he born? He was born in 1957. So he
looked, like teens. Yeah, he was probably like 16. But the fact that he doesn't look that much different in The Five Heartbeats is really like problematic black don't crack.
I mean, we love to see it.
I love that he's like uncredited though in the actual like cast, but on Google, he's like one of the first people that shows up from the movie.
Yes.
I was like, wow. Now I know what you look like.
Right. We can recognize him now.
Recognize you.
Okay. Even though I did not enjoy this movie, the part where they were like, when they stole the car and they bumped into the other car and the dude was like, whiplash, whiplash. And she was like, get on the ground. That would be me.
I felt like he was broken. He was like a malfunction and I got whiplash.
He was ready to sue for his pain and suffering. Okay. That's what it was giving.
Hoopla man couldn't say nothing else. Hoopla. Couldn't say nothing else.
My leg.
That's all he there for. It was whiplash.
My cabbages. There's always that one character that has something to say.
Cabbages. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. That is funny.
Sliding down the pole. I was like, was this necessary? Y'all
and they were falling over.
Right.
I'm glad they fell over because if they did that correctly, I'd be like, you in the wrong profession. Like if they really did that, and I was like, what? Like
the first one, he was like he hit it. The second one, I'm like, okay, now you need to move out the way so he can get his moment to shine, but you didn't do that. So now y'all on top of each other.
It reminds me of like kids at like playgrounds and they don't wait long enough and they hit the kid underneath. It was very much like Three Stooges type of behavior.
Yes. It was. And I'm glad that they did that. It gave a nice chuckle out of me.
Yeah.
I said, ha!
Not a singular ha.
I was gonna say that was probably the only moment that I laughed during this movie.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
I'm sorry, like, I don't know. I had such high hopes for this movie, even though I knew nothing about it. I was like, all right, people have said something about it before, so maybe it'll be good.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought the movie was great. I don't think it was the best movie ever made.
It was not.
But for the time that it was back then, it was also very much giving me like the Jeffersons, Sanford and Son. Like it was giving me that era of script writing, that era of storytelling. And I think because I grew up and watched that type of stuff is entertaining to me. And so I think when you watch enough of the sitcoms from back then, it kind of translated it because all of those were made, around the same time with the same type of cadence, language. They was really just vibing. They was vibing for a long time, living their best life. I was like, this is all they did back then was make out and jump on buses and
I did
like a very simple lifestyle, to me.
To put in the movie, so yeah, I guess.
I definitely had lowlights for this movie, but I think I have more positives than not. I don't know. I have an appreciation for movies that can do stuff without. There are definitely a couple of times where maybe if this movie was made in a different century, certain scenes would look better or certain things would be better. But I really liked that they were able to do what they could with what they had and what the time period was. And, it gave very much crabs in a barrel. That was probably one of the biggest things they had. Whole lot of niggas just nigga this, nigga that. It was everywhere. They was cussing.
Mm-hmm.
It was the language, the woman chasing around the dude with the butcher knife. It was very much giving that time of like, you get out of my place or I'm gonna hit you with this bat. It was, I don't know. I enjoyed the hijinks and the comedy of it all. It didn't take itself too seriously. I did find people annoying though. Like, I'm not saying the cast or the characters were my favorite characters, but I don't know. I appreciate it for what it was back then. I really I've never seen a movie that really shows Chicago in this light outside of like gangs and all that other type of stuff and like police brutality and things like that. So I just thought it was probably more lighthearted to come out back then than anything else that they were making with Black people in it.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. There were a couple of moments that made me chuckle. One of them was at the party when Cochise and what's his name are fighting. And it just cuts to this girl in the corner just eating her chips, watching the fight.
Baby, she was
munching, just vibing with her chips in the corner. And that took me out because truthfully, same. Like, I would be her. Just
what else you gonna do?
This has nothing to do with me. I'ma still sit here and enjoy my chips. Also when they broke that or whatever it was that she was like, my mom, she hadn't paid for this yet, so don't touch it. I was like, oh right, layaway. I forgot that's a thing. But that made me laugh because that is some relatable stuff right there. The whole party, and then that's when I started to notice. I saw a tweet. Someone had posted a video of some Black Vietnam veterans and they were like talking and like their accents, it gives more of like a Southern drawl within like the way that they speak. And around that time, that's when I started noticing like they have the same accent in this movie. And I was like, ooh, yes. I don't know what it is, but it tickles me.
A lot of people from Chicago have Southern accents because of the migration.
Yes, and I loved that. I did.
Yeah. I wonder why everyone's, and back then, I don't know, maybe it was like the acting style, but I just wonder why everybody's everything was so exaggerated. Like the girl that was running the door for the party was just so angry all the time. She was just yelling all the time. And I find like a lot of the characters didn't really have peaks and valleys. They were just like one thing majority of the time. And I don't know if that's like because of it was made back in the day or what, but it was just like, y'all are every time something happens, y'all are yelling. Every time it's never a conversation. It's get off of me. Like why?
Yes.
Dorothy was never happy. Okay, Dorothy was just.
She was.
When they were driving the stolen car, and the preacher's like, you know, I used to drive a Maserati for this white lady, and then they're trying to get him from behind the wheel. None of that was necessary when they was like, God, like, no, they're just like going back and forth while being chased by the police. And I get that it was like for comedy, but I'm also trying to think logically here. And I'm like, if y'all actually want a chance of getting away from this officer, I'm gonna need y'all to work together. I'm gonna need y'all to relax because you are going to jail.
Why did you put your foot on the gas when he was driving? That's what I'm confused about. And then he couldn't get his foot off. I was like, this is giving a Cinderella story when that exact same thing happened. Like,
it's giving Chicago. That is how people drive. In Chicago, one foot with one person in the car. Very accurate, very driving like they don't know where they're going, very trying to speed away from people. Watching a car chase is very interesting, and that's exactly what it looks like. Someone's driving with 2 feet.
It was so much. It was so much. However, I do enjoy seeing a white man get scammed. And I liked so that whole sequence, I was kind of here for it, despite the hijinks.
It was nothing but shenanigans and hijinks, and I feel like they didn't have social media back. They didn't have anything. Like, what else could they do other than do hijinks? Like, it really brought you back to the bareness of like, this is how we scammed. 101, basic class. Like, there was no other way to do it. And I mean, was he smart? Hey,
he could have been smarter.
Could have been.
I mean, the fact they were playing dice in the bathroom, just that alone was like, that was quite interesting to me. I'm like, oh, so this is what y'all do to pass time. Okay.
Like, all right.
I don't think they had too much going on back then.
No. I guess when you're 16 without an iPhone, what else are you gonna do?
What are they gonna do? They're gonna scam some prostitutes and make them think they're like.
I was like, what the hell? And then also, isn't Pooter supposed to be their friend? Why is everyone so mean to Pooter?
Right. What did he do? Like, I thought he may be a little bit younger than them, so maybe they were kind of like picking on him, whatever. But I was like, no, y'all just gonna leave him with the gorilla poop on him. Like, you're not gonna help him out.
It was giving little brother. It was giving like, you're right. They're supposed to be friends. You guys asked him to come with you, but you treat him like the little brother you didn't want to bring. That's exactly what was happening.
The movie theater scene when he was just trying to get back to his seat. He was going to get some popcorn and get back to his seat.
He was just trying to get to be.
And nobody let him sit down. And I'm like, now come on, like just move out the way. And then now there's a whole fight.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. When they said disciples stand up, I was like, this is how I would have exited the movie theater.
Right.
If you can call that out in the movie theater and all them people stand up, it's time for me to go. I watched this.
Half the movie theater stood up. Like,
it was not the tea at all. But that was actually one of my favorite. Like the whole scene, not necessarily that, because there was just a lot of like making out, and there's just not much I can do with just watching people make out for 5 minutes. But then after the fight happened and they were like fighting behind the screen and all that, I liked it. Was very stylistically, I liked how it was shot. It was a nice fun scene. But like I said, I feel like this whole movie was just hijinks. It was just like them getting into stuff and getting out of stuff and getting into stuff and getting out of stuff, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I can suspend my belief for this. Y'all can only do so much back then. This is probably like what the original Ferris Bueller type of movie. So yeah, they wasn't getting no Maserati back then.
No. And I'm like, so you just destroyed the whole movie theater, went through the screen, and nobody coming after you. Nobody, they don't care. All right. Also, y'all just left your girls in the middle of like this riot in the theater. Like, where is your girlfriend?
It's like, no wonder why they don't like you.
Right. I very much believe this is a true thing that was probably, I believe something like this happened today with high schoolers. They believe their girlfriends.
They would.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. They would forget. And then it would be in the group chat. 2 minutes later, ladies, we're out of here. And they move.
Right. Meet us at the McDonald's. Like,
Symbol, I'm crying.
I don't see at all them doing other than what they were doing, which was being teenagers and doing dumb shit. Like the whole movie.
Oh,
Yes. And I loved how you're clearly like his mom at one point told him to go get the belt. And I was like, see, clearly you're never too old for a get the belt moment ever. And you know what? It was well deserved after these hijinks. It really was.
Lived under her roof. You better be lucky she fell asleep.
Okay.
Okay.
And he over there put her on top of the head. I was like, I would have just backed away because
I wouldn't have touched her.
Wake her up. I'm not touching her.
He's better than me. I wouldn't even touch her. I would have been like, okay, well, I'm just.
Okay, let me just go put the belt back.
Right, I'm gonna go hide it. Can't find it. So,
because I don't want to be waking up to a belt getting smacked by a belt. So I'm gonna just hide the belt.
Okay. Yes. Also, there was something else with Brenda, Preach and Brenda, that had really. I was just like, oh, Preach, you are the worst. How the hell are they gonna have sex with his dirty fingernails? Okay. They're still laying in the bed. Not even 5 minutes later, he exposes the fact that this was all a bet. Like
$1.
$1. $1. Hold on. Let me pull up inflation calculator because I need to know how much money he actually bet on her, because that is just.
I'm gonna be honest. Y'all could take this how you took it. This film was a great explanation as to why old men act the way they do. Because
yes, nowadays,
obviously you see people with the way they are and you're just like, I don't understand. But this movie was like, oh, y'all been dumb. Like, no. I mean, like, so y'all do these things all the time. Like, it makes a lot of sense. The thought process behind especially like the men on the street that catcall you, like the older men.
Oh yeah.
Their approach makes a lot of sense because that's all they did back then. Was like, no, didn't mean. That was a low light for me. Although the movie was fun and everything, watching them not take no for an answer ever. It wasn't even like if they separated, they'd be like, okay, it's a no. I'll get you next time. It was like the amount of thirst. Was it that serious back then? Was it that critical?
Because even Preach, he was looking at his friend.
Mm-hmm. Cochise.
Cochise.
Yeah, him.
He was looking at him when he was with his girl, whatever. And then he was like trying to like push up on Sandra after she already said no. And I'm like, so what are we not getting? Like
what's not? And it makes sense because it don't be clicking for them today. Like it don't click for them.
And was that when the friend was like, well, I'll do it if she does it. Yeah. And I was like, girl, don't partake in this.
After he said, I think we should leave. And I'm like, bro, like, now you're going to try and pressure your friend to do, like, it wasn't.
That was too much. And then when they do get the girl, they fuck it up every time. And $1 in 1968 is $8.26 today. Can you imagine someone telling you they bet on you for $8.26? What can that buy you? maybe 1 pack of gum, 2, a 3-pack maybe.
I wish I wanted him to stand up. The fact that they got together again after that, it just, oh man, it just,
Brenda.
I'm gonna be honest, like, although I thought the movie was a cute little movie, it makes me very glad to be born in the decade that I am, because I feel like they did not really like know for real what self like.
Yeah.
You know, like they didn't really, like, this was seen as normal treatment. And it was like, well, you can't do anything about it. This is just how men are. It's like, no. If a man bets with his friends that he can sleep with you for $1, you don't then get back with him.
Literally. And then even the scene after that, when he's trying to play her like a fool, talking about, I black out sometimes, and she only kissed him to make another girl jealous.
Yes.
I was like, girl, first of all, he can beat it. He can beat it immediately. And she can have him if she wants him. But girl, please love yourself. Right. Love yourself. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I just saw that like as a theme in the movie was like the manipulation of women in this, because it wasn't even just like sex. It was also just like in general how they treated them and how they like, I don't know. They were just playing them the entire time. And I don't see how like Sandra didn't really, she didn't throw the fit that I wanted her to throw. I wanted her to throw a fit when she found out about Brenda. And she didn't do that. And I was like,
she just walked right past.
I was like, okay. And then like you were saying, when he gave his like sorry excuse for an apology, she was like, oh, I forgive you, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, go meet me at the train. I'm like, girl, stand up. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I will say though, Sandra got back at him by sleeping with his best friend. So part of me is like, okay. But the other part of me,
are you standing up or are you just laying down somewhere else?
You're laying down somewhere else for the same reason. Because they're best friends, clearly they have the same mentality. So
he bet his friend that he could sleep with another person. Do you really think you're high up on the priority list? Like, he's just messing with you because I think, you know, casting, Cochise is more attractive than Preach. And I feel like it gave Preach this desperation to just anything he could hit that would let him hit, he would hit it, you know? And I feel like that's great that that's his MO, but like that don't have to be your MO, you know? Like, it was just, I agree. It was very off-putting that no was never an acceptable answer for them. And I feel like maybe that's where like men today get this idea of like, if I'm charming enough, she'll eventually give in. Because it was just like, oh, she don't want you touching her. Stop touching her. Like, it was just constant the whole movie.
Right. And it's always like, from like the entitlement standpoint, it's like, well, like she has to say yes to me, but like they never think about the fact, does she even want you? You know, like you may want her, you may be doing all this yappity yap, but no one's taking into consideration like how she feels. And that just pisses me off. However, I will say in the very beginning, I was fooled by Cochise. At the very beginning, he went, and this is how I know that the bar is on the ground, because there was a girl sitting on the couch at the party. He walked up to her and was like, my name is Richard Morris, and I came to talk to you. And I will be leaving with your phone number and your address. I said, oh, shit. Because truthfully, if someone did come up to me, it was like, hey, I came to talk to you specifically, I would feel some kind of way. I'd be like, okay, what do you have to say?
So low. The bar.
But the bar is on the ground.
The bar is in hell. The bar is in hell. Okay.
That is the bare minimum.
I don't know. I feel like that part of the culture of Chicago hasn't gone anywhere, and that slick talking ness is something that happens a lot. And so it's just like, it seemed like a very unsuccessful strategy, right? Like, if being preached, if 5 girls already told you no, and it only went with 1 girl, your ratio, your odds, percentages ain't looking good. So why do you keep doing it? And it's just like, he just, you know, Cochise, I thought maybe no, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say I thought Cochise was gonna be a dog the whole time, but like just by casting, he was too pretty of a person to not be a fuckboy.
Yeah,
he was too like he had that aura of him that women just went to him. Even when they went to the party and poor little Pooter, you know, he was just trying to like talk to a girl. And he was like, Cochise.
Yeah.
Like he didn't kiss his girl on her cheek and everything. Pooter couldn't get nothing. And I was just like, you know, mind you, Pooter probably was too young for them. I don't really the ages at that party was interesting. The kickback vibes is real though. That really is like, you know how kickbacks and things like that is, but it was just like, it was so, and then the fact that they were able to get in, you know, for Brenda to be so loud, if that's what her name was. No, not Brenda. What's
the quarter girl?
The quarter girl. For her to be so loud and just that, you let, just, what?
She was a lot. Talk about, my mama said you can't turn off the lights.
Right, you coming in here, knuck of you buck ready to punch someone in the face, but he took you on the stairs 2 seconds. You didn't call.
2 seconds. I was like, okay, I don't even remember his name, but him and Dorothy. I was like, this is also another example of manipulation because she's over here. You can't turn the lights off. He's like, oh no, baby, it's okay. Blah blah. Turns the lights off, and I'm like, sir.
Living her best.
Nah, y'all can't fight in here. Y'all gotta fight outside. But baby, and then they start fighting, and I'm like,
oof. Is this gonna be like the constant theme? Are we perpetually just gonna be mad that women are being manipulated and stepped on the entire time? Because
probably.
I'm pissed. Next time we gotta watch some with, you know, like, can Queen Latifah beauty shop or something, you know, like.
I mean, I feel like even with women forward movies back then, at least from like 2010 and back, even that still has misogynoir like things towards women. And obviously it's a touchy subject because us as Black women don't really want to see us being the target of jokes and manipulation all the time, especially when it's to and from our counterpart, you know? So I don't see it not being a thing because I feel like every movie we reviewed so far, the misogynisticness has come up, but it's a point that it's like one of those things that's not aging well.
No.
It just doesn't age well. And as we can see from the 1970s, it's been a thing and it's continued to be a thing. Although I really like this movie and at times I like Preach, he was very much giving me like that dusty nigga, you know?
Yeah.
That just would not leave you alone. That's just like trying to get in your drawers. Like, and it's great because he had like poetry and he had things that could really like do it. But I don't know if it's because of the friend group or because Cochise was getting so much attention. It was no reason for him to have fought so hard to get Brenda's attention.
Okay.
There was no reason for him to fuck up in the moment that he did. And what makes it unprovoked.
You could have just said that in your head. You could have been like, oh, he gonna think da da da. But no, you said it out loud. Oh, wait till Cochise hears about this. Like,
and she was still naked. Like, and you didn't even give her a chance to get dressed.
What I hate about it the most, other than like her, just there was a lot happening in that scene, but like I feel like that's a great example of like men do stuff but still feel like they should be able to get away with it because it does nothing for him as a character and it does nothing for her as a character for her to find out she was a $1 bet and then just get back with him. Like I feel like that's always a thing we see. Men get to do whatever they want in movies and they get forgiven because they got a good heart. That's great. Go to Goodwill. Like that's not, get a therapist. Okay, get a therapist. Like, please. We can't be punching bags all the time. Like, goddamn.
Ever. And then it's like, and you go home and you see how hard your mother works. Like, she was about to whoop you, but couldn't because she fell asleep. Okay.
Because of her 3 jobs.
Because of her 3 jobs. And you out here treating women like this. Maybe you should think about your mother. Think about how you treat her and your sisters, you know, and oh man, I'm tired. Truly I am. And I got comfortable because I know like a lot of content coming out now is very much the opposite, as far as like we see a lot of like women-centered content where the women are in charge and the men are out here getting harassed, or like it's just women, no men, just vibes, and we're living in a beautiful utopia. Maybe not all the content, but I have seen some content that's like that has come out recently, and so like going back and forcing myself to absorb the content that I so actively try to avoid, it's tiring, like I'm watching content for escapism, because I don't want to face reality, because going outside, like it really is like this, like you get catcalled, you get harassed, you get talked over constantly. And so just to like have misogyny keep coming up in the stuff that we've talked about, and just like in general, it's exhausting, and I just want better for all these women. Like Brenda, girl, I see you. Sandra, I see you. The girl, we don't know your name, but you hosted that quarter party. We see you. I just want better for them. I don't know, and Preach, whatever. He had potential, but do better.
And that's the thing that's frustrating, because I was like, oh, he has his poetry. He wants to go to Hollywood to be a writer. Like he was funny a little bit, like after the sex scene when he was like diving under to go get her panties and her bra, whatever. I was like, okay, cute, whatever. But it's just, then he became a man again, like with his little misogynistic.
Right.
He was so good. Then he became
so good. And I was like,
right. It's like, let's not get too comfortable here, because we got comfortable. We were like Brenda. We're like, oh wow, he's so sweet. He read her some poetry. And then bam, you're actually only worth $1 to me. So
it makes me want to like have a conversation with someone that like isn't like family or easy accessible, or maybe even someone who was like in the industry back then. It just makes me want to ask them mentally where they were during this time, because it just makes me want to know how they felt. Was it something that was normal to them to the point where they were just like, oh, that's just so-and-so acting like so-and-so, like it just, as someone who's a Black woman in 2022, I could not imagine living through that and just accepting it as is, and knowing that like, no, you're not supposed to be treated like this. You're not supposed to be like, even when they were doing the like fake police thing with the sex workers, even then they were still copping feels. And it made me think of every party I've ever been to where men pass by you and cop a feel without your permission, and then just brush it off as, I was trying to get by, da da da. And I feel like at some points, yeah, maybe you might be like, oh, this person's cute, but like majority of the time it's unwarranted and unwanted.
Yes.
And it's just like, y'all are supposed to be getting $10 out of them, but instead you decided to do that and cop your feels. And it's just like, do you have no pride? Do you have no morals? Like, do you have no like, and I say this loosely because I know that, I want to give all respect to the writer, that this film is loosely based on his life. And I get that. Yes. Like, I think he is supposed to be like Preach, and then Cochise, which was his best friend when he was in, I don't know if he was from Chicago, but his best friend when he was younger, that's like the basis of the characters, which is why at the end, when they started doing like the little passages, I think everyone was loosely based off of each other. So I'm not calling him Dusty, but his character was Dusty. Like Preach was a very, like, he's the boy that, in reference to the time period, I feel like he's the guy that women would sleep with because they feel bad for him. And I feel like if that's your MO and you feel like that's an okay reason for someone to sleep with you, great. But I would like for you to have some more self-worth than that. Like, find you a woman who actually wants to be with you, and then don't go and tell her it was a bet to sleep with her.
Okay.
Right.
Like, that's all you could have been home run and great if you had just shut up. If you had just not said that part. Like, who was here, you were $1 bet.
No one. And the thing is, like, he actually liked her. And so where is the common sense to think, like, if someone had told you that you were a dollar bet, someone that you actually like, you would feel bad about it. So, maybe you should think a little bit before hurting the people that you care about. How about that? Preach. Okay. And I get that he's supposed to be in high school, and this is very on brand for teenage behavior. You just say stuff without thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't give a shit. You don't get a pass from me because I'm already mad now. I'm riled up. And then he was in the bathroom with that girl that was on the toilet when he was running away from him.
Oh my God. Okay. I'll be honest.
Didn't even get into that.
I'll be honest. I know what we're talking about right now is what we're talking about. That seems hilarious to me. But I know that it was inappropriate. I get it. I know it was an inappropriate scene. And then he was wilding. This also takes me back to like this whole screaming thing that like her character screaming the whole time. Oh, like, get out of here. It's like, girl, like, I don't know what way she could have composed herself, but for me, I think just as a personality trait, super loud people are very annoying to me. So if you're just being loud and you're not getting the result that you want, why are you still loud? Like, he's not trying to, obviously, yeah, if a guy jumped into my stall, whether he was running from somebody or not, I'd fight him. Yeah. But I would fight him. I wouldn't scream at him for 5 to 10 minutes. And
that went on for far too long. That scene
that scene was too long. It was too long and too loud.
Doing exactly what she did.
Too loud.
I can't even lie.
You would do that?
I'm not about to fight no grown man, okay?
Well, also, my panties are around my ankles.
I would scream, but I would not scream. Like, the way she was screaming, it was...
Yeah.
It was giving me, now why am I in it? See how I didn't do nothing?
Like, now why am I in it? Which was fine, but it's like, can you like just do something other than scream? Because it's clearly not working. Like, he's clearly not listening to you.
He wasn't even trying to get out of that bathroom because truthfully, he could have escaped through that window in record time.
I'm be honest. Sometimes windows like that are still shut. And I've encountered multiple ones.
Okay, that's true.
I thought maybe he saw that the window was closed. No, I don't be in situations like that. I'm just saying. I've seen, and it's mostly been in Chicago, whether it's like a bathroom in a place or something, a lot of those windows are still shut.
Okay.
So you can't get out of it. But I was thinking, because clearly that's what it was, that he was going to go somewhere else. But at a certain point, it was just him fumbling in the bathroom and her screaming. And it was just that for like 5 minutes.
Literally.
It wasn't funny anymore.
But something else, like, if he was really trying to escape, sure, the window could have been sealed shut. Try to break it. You're fighting for your fucking life out here. You're fighting for your life. And there was plenty of stuff in that bathroom he could have tried to do. He could have even armed himself and bust out the door and bust them over with the door.
And back to the misogyny, however you say it. Then when he finally is safe and she's trying to pull her panties back up, you copping a look. Like, it's just like the amount of unnecessary creepy behavior is like, that's how I know it was normal back then. Because I know when people saw that, they laughed. Like, I know for a fact when people saw that, they was like, look at him trying to cop. Like, I know it was like, that moment when people be tweeting like, this one gonna get him. I know that was that moment for them. But like, watching it now, I want, this isn't even the movie where I want women to stand up. I want men to stand up.
Okay.
Be better.
Yeah.
That's how you got to see some blank, by looking at an underage girl on the bathroom toilet.
On the toilet.
Is that where you get your kicks off, your rocks off?
And now he's also risking seeing what was in the toilet.
Well, they don't think that far. We not. That's
I do.
For the situation. For the situation. Now we're thinking too logical. Like,
but like still.
But it could be. It could be.
I mean, she was on the toilet and she had all of her privacy was completely stripped away from her. She was clearly upset that you were even in there to begin with. Granted, yes, he was being chased, whatever. He had nowhere else to go. Fine. But then, like, to take it a step further, like, sir, that's pathetic. And I want you to know that you are a loser.
Okay.
You're a
I
loser.
think that was a form of comedy back then. And even when you think about comedians, I think that type of borderline, you're not assaulting anybody, but you're making a woman feel uncomfortable. I think that was a humor that was strictly from a man's world. Like when men are running things, their humor is very different when they're only like, I don't know how much this movie was made for young women to watch. We'll just say that.
It couldn't have been, because all the main characters were men. And also, like, coming out of that scene, like the editing, it was cut for comedy. Because like he looked and then she like slapped him and then it cuts.
Yeah. It was Three Stooges type of comedy, slapstick comedy, humor. It was a lot of physical comedy in this. And yeah, I thought it was a cute movie, but like it's definitely written a couple of times in my lowlights that all they did was make women uncomfortable and lie. Like that was his personality trait. He was lying about stuff he didn't even have to lie about, and he was just lying. And I see a lot of older men that just be lying about stuff for no reason, just lie their way out of stuff. What are you getting out of that?
To wrap it up a little bit, is there any other points that we wanted to add that we wanted to say? Go ahead, Bobby.
I got one. So Cochise just dies and that's it.
First of all, can we address that? I didn't even think Cochise was dead. I honestly I knew that the camera moment of him hitting his like jaw or whatever was supposed to be like when people hit their head on stuff and they like crack their neck. Like I knew that was that moment, but I was like, this man's still squirming around. He ain't dead. The fact that he was full on dead was
shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking. He punched him 3 times. And then he dies.
Well, he hit his head on the metal beam. And I think that was supposed to be like the moment of him like
it was trauma.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like, but the way that it was shot, it wasn't done with a stunt double, and it was done very carefully so the actor would not actually hit his head and hurt himself. So I think because it was done so softly, I was like, oh, he's knocked out. And all of a sudden we're singing It's So Hard to Say Goodbye, which I did not know was not Boyz II Men song.
Me either. I was shook. Really?
That was not Boyz II Men singing that song. I was like,
and at the end it said Motown. I was like, oh. The cover being more popular than the original.
Okay. I wanted better for Pooter than just being a factory worker. I was
right. Justice for Pooter.
You know, was he really made to do anything else but become a factory worker? Like they never gave him like a want and need in life.
No.
It was just Cochise, who was supposed to be going to play basketball, and then he died.
Yep, and then Preach with his Hollywood writer stuff, and then Jimmy and Coach. Well, I don't. Robert and Jimmy, or Robert and Stone. Yeah, they died. Whatever. I was expecting that one.
Yeah.
Brenda being a librarian, married with 3 children. That was very 1975 of them.
In Atlanta, probably went to Clark.
In Atlanta.
Yeah. Like, okay, she probably went to Spelman or Clark Atlanta, or maybe I don't think Clark was Clark Atlanta yet then. It was like
it was just Clark because my mommy was there.
Yeah, that's probably I can see Spelman for her.
Yeah. Spelman is what I was actually thinking. So yeah, I agree. Do I have any more thoughts? I feel like we covered most of the things. You know, the crabs in the barrel mentality was very much apparent because they didn't want Preacher to live his best life and they made fun of him, but you know, that's what men do to each other. I will say there was like certain moments of cinematography that was cute. The kickback I noticed was lighted with yellow, red, and blue, and it was like characters were standing in whatever color light they were feeling. So I was like, okay, I see the attempt of a little something. I do think it is hilarious how men expect women to be ride or die, but they was not ride or die with each other through that movie. There was a couple of times where people was left in certain places and they was gone. I was like, y'all are not.
Yep.
You should be
about that like you say you are.
No.
You're not. I have one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
The soundtrack slapped.
Oh, it was great. It was phenomenal.
They said, "Baby, love my baby." Yes,
that was my highlight. That was my highlight.
I really was like, I felt very zillennial because obviously I've watched the Nope trailer like a billion times. In the Nope trailer song, you know how Jordan Peele be like taking songs and putting it and make it scary? That song was in it when they were on the bus. And I was just like, hey, I've never heard this song before outside of the Nope trailer. So it's always like, it was like,
wait, really?
Really?
I've never, why would I have heard it?
Oh, I don't know.
What again, much like the movies, in what instance, like my parents were playing like Isley Buzzers and stuff, but I'm pretty sure that was a song that had to be famous during that time. I don't think I was really listening to stuff made in the 60s.
Right. I used to work at a toy store, and whenever I was on the clock, the Motown CD was in the little thing, and everyone in the store is gonna be listening to Motown for the next 8 hours.
Yeah.
So that was it. So I was like,
should.
Took me back.
All right. So now we have to rate. Who wants to go first? Who has a strong feeling?
Honestly, I never wrote a rating down.
Oh, I did.
I don't know. I feel like out of all of the male-led movies that we've watched, the female interactions really off-put me a lot in this movie, like more than anything else, because it wasn't extreme. It was all very subtle stuff that happens on a day-to-day that people don't see an issue with. Mm-hmm. But like if you watched it today like we did, it so very clearly doesn't age well, but I guarantee it would age well with some men. That makes me disgusted. Yes. So that really grinds my gears.
I understand.
People think that that's still acceptable to do. I would have to say, oh man. There are more good things than bad in this movie.
What's your rating, sis?
My rating, the full, I want you to know the full 1 point that's off this rating is strictly the misogyny situation. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Let me explain why.
Oh my God.
Let me explain. Like I said before, I grew up watching a lot of the television shows so a lot of like the behaviors and storylines and the simplicity, it was entertaining to me because I was entertained when I was younger by it. So it's very much one of those like you grew up with it, you understand it type things. The only thing that I did not like in this movie was the unnecessary like masculinity situation, and then there was really nothing else that I didn't like about the movie. The soundtrack was bomb. I thought that them going around Chicago was bomb. I thought that the storyline was as simple as it was going to get in the 1970s / when it was supposed to be in 1960s. They wasn't doing too much back then, so I can't expect them to be the Avengers running around Chicago. It's not happening. I think for what it was, it very much told the story, other than it being based off of kind of loosely a true story. It told the story of what a lot of people was going through back then. A lot of Black kids was going through. They didn't really show the racism, but I know the racism was way, way worse. Like it fit the hijinks and what they were doing back then. I cannot fault the movie for that. And I am not looking past all the creepy shit they was doing whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking past it. I'm pretty sure maybe the women back then didn't know better or just felt like that was their reality. They couldn't do anything about it. So I'm glad to see that is where the starting point is. And I'm glad to see where we are in movies now. Mm-hmm. So that is also the way I'm judging. I'm not judging it as a movie that came out right now, because clearly that would be extremely unacceptable. But like back then, that is just the culture. That's just the lifestyle and nothing I can do about it. Everything else was great. I feel like the characters that needed to be fully developed were, like I said, soundtrack, great. Locations, great. I could see everything sometimes the color be getting a little interesting back then when it comes to movie making. So 4 out of 5. It kept my attention the whole time. The Cochise death scene was a little something. The poem that he did at the end, I really like how they shot that. I really like how they shot it in the cemetery. The ending was interesting that he was running like he was Rocky Balboa, but
Yeah.
I thought it was a good movie. It's a movie that I feel like it has more rewatchability than some of the other movies that we watch, just depending on where you are stance wise. Would I rewatch it? Probably not. But I think it ages better than a lot of the other movies that we've seen. So I have to give it, I can see why it's a cult classic. And a lot of people like Spike Lee and everybody else, this is their movie that they get all their influence from. And a lot of movies today would not even be here because of this movie. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I see the influence. And I think it deserves the influence that it got. So that's why I'm giving it a 4.
Okay. Bobby?
Well, the first time I watched it, I gave it a 3. And then last night after I finished, 2.5. But during this conversation, I have bumped it back up to a 3 because I realized I did have fun in certain moments. I was bored in others. I was pissed off when I wasn't supposed to be in other moments. And so I just feel like the combination of those feelings wraps up nicely to a 3. It does. I was very confused as to why Cochise, like why they just did him like that at the very end. It was just very abrupt. And that was just it. Preach, yeah, whatever. Enjoy your Hollywood success. Okay. I'm over it. I wouldn't rewatch it again. I barely even wanted to rewatch it for this.
Absolutely not.
The only reason why I did was so I could take notes this time. I'm not going to rewatch it. I watched it and it's a movie. I've seen it and that's how I feel.
I can check the box off now.
Yeah, that was it.
I'm giving it 1.5.
I expect nothing less.
I did not really enjoy this movie. I was very bored. The men were just men, which pissed me off. And then, I don't know. There wasn't the dying scene. What's his face? Preach didn't really seem too sad that he was dying, in my opinion. Like, that's your best friend, and he did. And you just like, it wasn't enough for me. It wasn't enough for me. So, yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to change my 3.5.
2? Oh.
3.5.
Oh, 3.5.
Oh, okay. Your influence.
No. I wasn't influenced. Not by anything, because I liked it way more than Danielle did. It wasn't influenced. 3.5. Some of the acting wasn't great, and I'm gonna just leave it at that. I'm gonna just leave it.
Oh,
I have to do a 3.5, but I still stand by everything else I say. So my final rating is a 3.5.
Okay.
Damn, acting. I didn't think about that.
The acting was just, it just wasn't there at points, and the music was great. That's why it's not a 1. So 1.5. That
is hilarious.
That's all I can do. That's all I can do. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for watching another episode of Hot Combs and Popcorn. Again, I'm Danielle.
I've been Bree.
And I'm Bobby.
And if you haven't done so already, please follow and subscribe to us on both YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Give us a like, share the episode, leave a comment below. Let us know, have you seen Cooley High? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Like me? What are your thoughts? We really want to know. And tell us what we should watch next. TV show, movie, what would you like us to see? As you guys know, the street lights, they kind of coming on. So we need to go. We're not trying to be late. So until next time, same place. Bye, everyone.